Hello everybody and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to be looking at the potential steals from the 2024 NFL draft. Obviously there was some slides, some people that fell, some players that didn't go where they were expected to. There were some that were like so far down I thought that there might be something wrong, and most of the time there's just a natural fall. Maybe the league isn't as high on some of these players as people in the draft community, or like I said, just general consensus outside of the NFL. Honestly, I thought that there was some great value down the board, and we'll talk about who and why. But in past years, like obviously some names come to mind in terms of like their value picks because they are so far down, but they had some injuries or off the field stuff that got sorted out in the NFL. There are plenty of situations where that's quite the opposite. They're drafted a little bit lower because of some of the injury risk or something off the field that we don't know about. So heading into this is just going to be skill players only, and if you guys like this enough, make sure to get in the comments. Let me know if you guys want like a full defense, everything, offensive linemen included, steals of the draft as well. So let's head right on in and see what names we got. And we'll start in the second round with the 52nd pick overall. It was Adonai Mitchell, who I had as my wide receiver 6, and he went as wide receiver 11 in the entire draft. This is a guy that did have some questions about character, effort, and everything like that. Chris Ballard went to bat for this kid in the press conference. If you guys haven't seen that, I highly recommend going to look at that. That is exactly what you want to see if you're Adonai Mitchell entering a new franchise, a new chapter there with some confidence and whatever you want to list there. And you think this is probably a very talented player that takes over your flanker on the other side of Michael Pittman Jr. with Adonai Mitchell. I think Alec Pierce then becomes your situational vertical threat sort of player. If you want to play big, maybe get Josh Downs out of the slot, put Adonai Mitchell or even Michael Pittman Jr. can play the slot just due to his possession, target, and I guess ability there. So there's Adonai Mitchell, 52nd overall, a player like I had, like all-world talent, probably better and more polished than Brian Thomas right away. And I think the upside's probably a little bit more on Brian Thomas's side just because of the athleticism. But don't forget, Adonai Mitchell ran really good at the combine as well. Maybe just not as big, but I mean, the fluidity at his size is ridiculous. Like, this is a really good player Indianapolis got here at 52 overall, and one that I think could pan out and people will start to understand. Like, people kind of questioned the fit. Like, why are they're like, there's players on the board that you might rather have, like corners or whatever, some of the needs. But I mean, I thought that this was great value, a great pick, and putting some very different, or I guess a different type of player on the other side of Michael Pittman Jr., keeping Josh Downs in the slot. And I already mentioned I was really high on Alec Pierce coming out of Cincinnati just due to his athletic testing. I thought that was pretty nuts. So maybe you're enticed here again with Adonai Mitchell and a similar type of testing sort of guy. I know Alec Pierce probably a slightly worse tester and a lot worse as a prospect coming out, but you're still getting Adonai Mitchell in the second round as a first round talent with some, you know, effort concerns, character, stuff like that. That again, I said Chris Ballard kind of just went to bat and kind of just demolished everyone that was saying the same thing I just was. So apologize to Chris Ballard. I had no value picks in the third round that were at least skill players. So with Troy Franklin at pick 102 in the fourth round, we saw him go, and he was actually wide receiver 7 for me. So Adonai Mitchell at wide receiver 6, and he was my wide receiver 7. Troy Franklin going 50 picks later. He's just a good player, connecting with his college quarterback in Bo Nix up in Denver. I think that he is a tremendous player. Honestly, you could go to the notes and read off what everybody else is going to talk about, but I think that the sloppy combine, I think that is where I really fell off opinion wise. Then I went back for my final checks, watched the tape, and I again fell in love with the vertical threat Troy Franklin is, and then the ability to work everywhere else and have such a good rapport with the quarterback. I thought that, yeah, he might have to work at that in the NFL to get some of, like, to kind of bring out some of his skill set. But no, he goes to his college quarterback in the NFL where they already have that connection, obviously, right? So Troy Franklin and Bo Nix, great pairing. I look for him to be productive in year one. Marvin Mims probably playing the slot, Cortland Sutton there, and then Tim Patrick probably starts over him, and then training camp, we'll see where that goes. And Tim Patrick, obviously, we know, has some pretty big injury concerns on him. So we'll have to see how this one pans out production-wise, but I thought that this is still a very good player on the tape. When you look at the combine, it was one of the worst I mean, probably the worst out of the wide receivers and one of the worst I've ever seen from a receiver at the combine. So a little unfortunate, but I like Troy Franklin quite a bit from the tape, and I'm going to believe in that. I'm going to believe in what I watched, and especially what I talked about with his connection with Bo Nix translating to the NFL, because he is inherited into that situation. I really do like the pick. Devontae Walker, the UNC wide receiver, that he was taking the 19th receiver in this draft, just one past Troy Franklin. There was only one receiver in between the two, and yet he was my wide receiver 11 on my board. So Devontae Walker at 113th overall in the 4th round, again going to the Baltimore Ravens. They did just extend Rashad Bateman. I wouldn't, you know, similar body type, but I don't think that they're the same type of player at all. He's more of a vertical threat that I think has great ability everywhere else, but didn't really have to show it as much. A very limited route tree in terms of what he was asked to do at UNC. A player I really think could take the top off of defense with such good size, tracking, and I think he actually contested, you know, a lot of catches and did a good job there. So I like Devontae Walker quite a bit. And then the additional strengths in his game come to mind when you're talking about how he might be able to flow over the middle. He tempos his routes really, really well. And not only that, he is one of the hardest working, best teammates in the receiving class of this draft, in my opinion, with how much he's just always willing to help, whether it's run blocking, whether it's after the play is going to help a teammate up that was on the ground, or improv. They have to do the out of the pocket drill where Drake May's scrambling around and Devontae Walker is just trying to get open every time. There's no wasted steps in this kid's game. I really like Devontae Walker. There's a lot of effort there. So you might think that translates with Lamar Jackson while he's scrambling out of the pocket, and then, you know, even running up the middle of the field, Devontae Walker will do his best to try to, you know, take one of his boundary guys or the safety over top and block him out of the equation from getting to Lamar Jackson as a runner. So Devontae Walker just brings a great mentality teammate and what I think is actually higher upside than he got credit for to the Baltimore Ravens at number 113 overall. Thought it was tremendous value. My favorite player in this class, it is Bucky Irving. I mean, it's close with he and Bo Nix, and I'm not an Oregon fan. Just two players I really liked during the process, and I know what are the chances that it's two Oregon guys, and I just spoke highly of Troy Franklin, but here we are with Bucky Irving taking 125th overall. He was RB6 off the board, but my RB2, highest I've ever seen him, is on my board. No one else was going for Bucky Irving like I was. Are you kidding me? And he lands with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have Chase Edmonds there, but I think he's Chase Edmonds and much more. He is just as good in the pass game, and I think he's a way better runner with way better contact balance. This kid is out of this planet when you look at some of the strengths that he has. He's very good at a select like 3 things as a pass catcher, vision, and contact balance, and I think that has a good job to translate, and especially since he doesn't have to take the in between the tackles and it might really dampen his numbers. I think he's going to be really good paired up with Rachaad White, who I don't think was splendid by any means. I thought Rachaad White was like good. I thought he was about middle of the pack, but fantasy wise, he was a really good running back. And so I think people might get that a little bit mixed up. I think Rachaad White was fine. I think he just had a lot of opportunity, production, and stuff like that. And Bucky Irving coming in will get some of that second back and maybe even 50-50 by the end of the season usage between Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. So I really, really do like the landing spot. A tremendous player on tape and someone I think has been talked about as a 4th rounder. And then there's like the few down there that like you just don't draft small running backs. And I feel like that's starting to change. So I guess this is good value in terms off of consensus to where you're drafting, but from my board to where he was drafted, I thought that this was great value at 125. So Bucky Irving giving me, I mean, a very good and productive conversation here that he's gonna be translating to the NFL. Instead, he didn't like land at a bad landing spot where I'm still trying to say, well, I mean, year or two down the road, like he gets to go right away, in my opinion. And we'll get to talk about that here with this next guy. It's Notre Dame's Audric Estime that went to the Denver Broncos at 147th overall, the first pick we'll talk about and the only pick in the 5th round. He was my RB5 and he went off the board as RB12, someone that tested terribly, and I guess that translates to where he was drafted. I thought that there was a benefit of the doubt. I mean, from everyone you talk or listen to, it was a lot of, but the tape didn't say 4.71. Like he ran the 40 and it was atrocious. And and then you look at the tape, you're like, dude, this guy's running away from Peyton Wilson. So, I mean, give and take what your opinions are, Audric Estime is still a tremendous back, especially through the middle of the field. He's a grinder. He'll get in between the tackles. He'll open up an opportunity, and he does a good job making something, not out of nothing, but there's like a smaller hole, and then he's able to hit it and then kind of open it up with using his power. So I really do like the versatility Audric Estime does have too. I think he would work well also outside if you're running more towards your tackles. I think he does a good job reading the field, hitting the back foot and leaving upfield. So I think that there is a very good chance Audric Estime cuts into some of the Samaje Perine time, and especially in year 2 or whenever Audric Estime would be talked about as a 1-2 punch with Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams gets injured. Oh no, it's going to be Audric Estime through the middle of the field, and then Samaje Perine kind of everywhere else. So I think Audric Estime has a really good chance to be productive in not only year 1, but year 2. There should be a better feel, and I thought the tape was just too good to not talk about Audric Estime. He's just so good, such an athlete at such size. It's not unheard of. To me, he's being undervalued like crazy, and the NFL draft kind of showed that. He's a 5th round pick, 147th overall. Not a whole lot of high praise for him in the NFL, but I think that just as some film watcher that sits here and says Audric Estime is good, I think you guys got to take my word on it. I think Estime is great. Now we go to the 6th round where Malik Washington, the wide receiver out of Virginia, headed to Miami, 184th overall pick. He was wide receiver 26 off the board, and yes, he was my wide receiver 23. So where's the value, Bozoid? Listen. Malik Washington goes to Mike McDaniel. There's the value. This guy is, I said, you would have to scheme stuff up for him. You would have to make sure he gets special attention. Him going to arguably one of the smartest football minds in the NFL in Mike McDaniel just gives me that much more confidence that he will get the manufactured attention he needs, I should say, instead of usage, because I don't know. As a 6th round pick, obviously it's a little tough to become a starting slot receiver, but I think that's the upside you're looking at with Malik Washington. And yes, picks 6th round or not, I think he is talent. Despite my wide receiver 23 ranking, I think that it is more of the conversation that he had to fit some stuff and then goes to a great landing spot, cleans up some of those concerns. Now, I still probably wouldn't choose him over some of the other guys saying that he's better than, you know, even like Jamari Thrash, I still like a little bit more. So Malik Washington, very great landing spot, landed with a very smart offensive genius in McDaniels. Obviously, they've got some other weapons, spread the field out. Malik Washington, I like his chances, man. I really do. Malik Washington, someone you're going to be hearing a lot of coming up to the season if you're looking at fantasy stuff, and only, you know, if you're a Miami fan, I'm sure there's going to be buzz about this kid in training camp and OTAs and all that good stuff, because Malik Washington is a special type of player, someone that's got a certain role to him. Think of Malachi Corley, and then take away a little bit of like the height and then the overall height with a P, because Malik Washington, I'm not going to say they're the same player, but I did have them similarly ranked. I wasn't a whole lot of, I guess I wasn't the biggest fan on some of these yak guys, and maybe that'll change after this year. Maybe I just have to see how they translate, because I'm just kind of floored by still like 6th round for such a unique skill set. Malik Washington, I think, is so great value. And my 3rd favorite player, if not 2 or 1, I think there's just a big 3 for me in terms of favorite players. It's Bo Nix, it's Bucky Irving, and it's Johnny frickin' Wilson, the wide receiver, standing at like 6'6", 6'5", something like that, 230 plus pounds. He was my wide receiver 16 in the class and came out as wide receiver 27, drafted at the 185th overall pick. That is one pick after Malik Washington, so still in the 6th round area. And Johnny Wilson goes to Philadelphia, where obviously we looked at JJ Arcega-Whiteside similarly, but there just wasn't the same freak that Johnny Wilson is. I love Johnny Wilson in terms of what he is able to do. He has like these crazy reps where, 1, the release is insane, 2, his run blocking is amazing, 3, he just straight up beats a defender with his reach. intangibles like crazy with Johnny Wilson, and unprojection here, or however the hell you want to say that. He's hard to project to an NFL team and to the NFL as a whole. Like, I don't know where the skill set goes. Obviously the 6th round is where it went, but I don't know where it goes in terms of tight end, wide receiver, role, formations, certain type of personnel on the field. So who knows with Johnny Wilson, but I just love the player. I thought he was so very good compared to consensus, and it just reassured me seeing him go at 6 that obviously I have to slow down, I have to calm down, I have to lower my expectations for Johnny Wilson. But the tape was awesome. I loved the unique skill set that he holds, and again, a lot of it is role specific and seeing how and where he's used, but I just love Johnny Wilson in terms of a threat and someone that's a mismatch against almost anyone he sees. In the 7th round, the 32nd wide receiver taken, wide receiver Brendan Rice to the Chargers. He was my wide receiver 19 on the year. I don't get this one. I don't understand why he's going so low. Not only is he a tremendous worker, you have to think about where he's coming from, and that's all that's ever talked about with him. It's kind of annoying to the point where, yes, it is Jerry Rice's son, but that does hold a little bit of value. So I'm very confused as to why this is. There must be some sort of something we don't know about, whether it's injury or off the field. I doubt off the field if I had to speculate, because Brendan Rice just seems like such a wholehearted kid, but obviously we've seen personas in the past. Just tremendous value in terms of draft capital. 225th overall. He is clearly much better than that, and he's a great athlete for such size, and I thought at times he showed even better cuts than people gave him credit for in the grand scheme of things. So I think the upside is actually there, and I think he will compete for play time as a 7th round pick in a depleted wide receiver room, and at the least you're getting a great special teamer that'll give it his all. So I really do like Brendan Rice, the landing spot, the culture he has gone to now with Jim Harbaugh, and we'll have to see, because obviously something's different here that we didn't know, because I didn't see him as a 7th rounder. No one saw him as a 7th rounder, to be fair. So Brendan Rice to the Chargers seems like a great value. And again, the thing I was talking about with the size and intangibles with Johnny Wilson, it almost applies here as Brendan Rice, more as the size with the athletic profile as well. Someone I really like to win some boundary reps and whatnot over in LA. So that'll be the list. That is done. That is all it for me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, go down, subscribe, go ahead and check some of the past content on the channel, and I guarantee you'll like it. That'll be all for me. I'll see you guys next time. Deuces.